Hello, and welcome. You are about to listen to a shortened and simplified version of The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. This special edition is written in simple English, so it's easy to understand, but the heart of the story is still here. It's a story about a little boy from another planet. A story about love, friendship, loneliness, and what really matters in life. Whether this is your first time, or you've known the Little Prince for years, I hope this journey brings you something quiet and beautiful inside. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Once, when I was 6 years old, I saw a wonderful picture in a nature book. It showed a big snake, a boa constrictor, swallowing an animal. In the book it said, boa constrictors swallow their prey whole. Then they cannot move and sleep for 6 months. I thought a lot about that picture. I decided to draw my own version. See my picture below. I showed my drawing to grown-ups and asked, "Does this frighten you?" But they always replied, "Why frighten? It looks like a hat." So I made drawing number 2, showing the inside of the snake, with the elephant inside. Then I showed that to grown-ups. They said, "That's better. But you are a big boy now. Draw with colors, and study grammar, geography, history, and arithmetic." And that is how, at 6 years old, I gave up becoming an artist. I studied hard in school instead. Chapter 2. So I lived alone. I had no one to talk to about real things. But that changed 6 years ago. My airplane broke in the Sahara Desert. Something was wrong with the engine. I was alone, far from people, with only a little water. On the first night, I slept on the sand. There was no one around for thousands of miles. You can imagine how surprised I was when, at sunrise, I heard a small voice. "Please, draw me a sheep." I jumped up. I looked around, and saw a little boy. He looked very serious. Not lost, not scared. Here is the best drawing I could make of him. But it's not perfect, I'm not good at drawing anymore. The little boy looked at me carefully. "What are you doing here?" he asked. I said my plane was broken. He said nothing, just, "Please, draw me a sheep." So I tried. I showed him this. He said, "No, this one is too sick. This one is too old. This one has horns. I want a nice sheep." So I drew a box. I said, "The sheep you want is inside." His face lit up. "Perfect." And he added, "Do you think this sheep needs a lot of grass?" "Why?" I asked. "Because my planet is very small." Chapter 3. I slowly learned more about the little prince. He asked many questions. But he didn't always answer mine. Soon I understood, his planet was very, very small. Too small for people. And the sheep? It was for his planet. He looked at my airplane and asked, "What is that?" "It flies." "It's a plane." "You fell from the sky?" he asked. "Yes," I said proudly. "Oh. You came from the sky. Like me." And he laughed and clapped. I asked, "Where are you from?" But he didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the plane and asked quietly, "If the sheep eats little bushes, does it eat flowers too?" "Yes, if the flower has no thorns." "Then, what are thorns for?" I was busy fixing my engine. I said, "Thorns are nothing. Flowers have them just to be mean." He looked hurt. "I don't believe you. Flowers are weak. They protect themselves as they can." He was upset. I felt bad and said kindly, "Don't worry. Your flower is safe. I will draw a muzzle for your sheep." He looked at me with big, grateful eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. Chapter 4. I slowly learned more about the little prince's home. He liked to talk about it, but only a little at a time. He never answered questions directly. It felt like I had to put puzzle pieces together. His planet was very, very small. It was no bigger than a house. I believe it was a small asteroid, called B612. A Turkish astronomer saw it first in 1909. He gave a presentation about it, but no one believed him, just because he wore traditional Turkish clothes. Later, in 1920, he gave the same presentation again, but this time he wore a European suit. Everyone believed him then. Grown-ups are strange. They care too much about numbers, clothes, and facts. When you tell them about a new friend, they don't ask, "What does his voice sound like?" or "What games does he like?" They ask, "How old is he? How much does he weigh? Where does he live?" And if you say, he has golden hair and loves sunsets, they won't understand. So, when I tell grown-ups about the little prince, I say, he came from asteroid B612. That makes them happy. But really, what matters is that he laughed, asked for a sheep, and wanted to protect his flower. That's what made him special to me. Chapter 5. Day by day, I learned more about the little prince's tiny planet. One morning, he asked me if sheep really eat bushes. I told him, yes, of course they do. He became quiet, then asked if they eat baobabs too. I was surprised and told him that baobabs are very big trees. He nodded slowly and said, but before they grow big, they are small. I began to understand the danger. On his small planet, baobab trees could grow too large. Their roots would break everything. He explained that his planet had both good seeds and bad seeds. The good seeds grow into flowers or small plants. The bad seeds, like baobabs, must be pulled out right away. If you wait too long, they take over and destroy everything. He told me that it was important to take care of your planet. Every morning, after cleaning yourself, you must clean your planet too. He did this every day, pulling out the small baobab sprouts while they were still tiny. He was very serious about it. I could tell it was something he thought about a lot. I made a drawing of huge baobab trees growing on a tiny planet, with their roots stretching out and cracking everything. The little prince looked at my drawing and said it was good. He said children would understand. He was glad I had drawn it, because sometimes people forget things that are important. And in that moment, I realized how deeply he cared for his small world. Chapter 6. Every day I spent with the little prince, I learned something new about him, about his planet, or about the way he saw the world. And slowly, piece by piece, I began to understand what made him happy. One thing he truly loved was sunsets. On the third or fourth day after we met, he told me, I really love sunsets. Let's go watch a sunset now. But we have to wait, I said. We're on Earth. We have to wait until evening. He looked surprised. Then he said quietly, oh. I always think I'm still on my planet. You see, on his little planet, you could watch the sunset whenever you wanted. The planet was so small that if you walked just a few steps, you could be on the other side. And because of that, he could watch the sun go down again and again, just by moving his chair. One day, he told me, I saw the sunset 43 times. And then he added, just after a pause, you know, when you're very sad, sunsets are so beautiful. Were you sad that day with the 43 sunsets? I asked. But he didn't answer. He just looked away from me, toward the horizon, as if remembering something very far away. Maybe someone. Maybe his flower. Chapter 7. On the fifth day, thanks to the sheep, another secret about the little prince's life was revealed. He asked me suddenly, if a sheep eats bushes, does it also eat flowers? I replied, a sheep eats anything it finds. Even flowers with thorns. Yes, even flowers with thorns. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, then what are the thorns for? I didn't know. I was busy fixing the engine of my plane, so I said without thinking, thorns don't really do anything. Flowers grow them to look tough, but they're weak. There was a long silence. Then he spoke, and his voice was different. He sounded hurt. I don't believe you. Flowers are gentle, and they try to protect themselves the best they can. They believe their thorns help them. He was angry now. I felt ashamed. I had been acting like a grown-up, only thinking about numbers and fixing machines. He looked at me with eyes full of pain and said, you talk like the grown-ups. You mix everything up. You don't understand anything. Then he said something that made me feel very small. There's a flower. I love her. I water her. I cover her with glass at night. I keep her safe from wind. I listen to her. And you think it's not important whether my sheep eats her? He couldn't say more. He suddenly began to cry. I held him in my arms and comforted him. I said I would draw a muzzle for his sheep. I promised to protect his flower. I didn't know what to say, but I felt very close to him in that moment. His tears were like stars falling. Chapter 8. The little prince soon got to know a special flower that grew on his planet. It wasn't like the simple flowers he had seen before, with just one row of petals and taking up hardly any space. This one began growing from a strange little seed that no one had ever seen before. At first, the flower was very modest. She prepared herself slowly, in secret, under the ground. She chose her colors carefully. She dressed herself with great care. She didn't want to come out looking messy. She wanted to be perfect when she appeared. So it took her a long time. And then, one morning, just at sunrise, she showed herself. She was beautiful. The little prince had never seen such a graceful flower. The flower yawned and said, "Ah. I've just woken up. I'm still all messy. Please excuse me." The little prince was amazed. She was not only beautiful, but also proud. "I was born at the same time as the sun," she said. The little prince quickly fell in love with her, but she was complicated. She wasn't always easy to understand. Sometimes she told lies, small ones, but enough to confuse him. For example, one day she said, "I don't like drafts. Could you please build a screen to protect me?" And then she added, "Where I come from." But she didn't say more. She had come as a seed, she couldn't have come from anywhere else. The little prince was surprised, but he stayed quiet. He was kind. He believed what she said, even when it didn't make sense. But slowly he started to doubt her. Her words were confusing. She was proud, and sometimes she made him feel small. But she never meant to hurt him, she was just a flower who didn't know how to show love in simple ways. "I shouldn't have listened to her words," the little prince told me later. "I should have seen her heart." He had been too young to understand. He had left his flower behind, thinking he could forget her. But now, far away from his planet, he realized that she had meant something deep to him. That she had been fragile, and that he had loved her, even if he hadn't understood it at the time. Chapter 9. Before the little prince left his planet, he cleaned it carefully. He pulled out the last small baobab sprouts. He cleaned out his volcanoes. He had 2 active volcanoes, he used them to heat his breakfast, and one that didn't work. But he cleaned it too. "You never know," he said. "Maybe it would wake up one day." Cleaning volcanoes is like cleaning a fireplace. If they are cleaned well, they burn gently and don't explode. On Earth, we are too small to take care of volcanoes, but the little prince, on his tiny planet, could do it easily. It was the last morning. He watered his flower one final time. He was going to put the glass dome over her, as he always did, to protect her from the wind. But this time, she said softly, "No. I don't need it." He looked at her in surprise. "I don't need the glass anymore," she said. "The cold air won't hurt me. The night wind. I'm a flower." She looked different somehow. Calmer. "Don't worry about me," she added. "I must learn to deal with 2 or 3 caterpillars if I want to see the butterflies." He was amazed. "Please don't hang around like this. You've decided to go, so go." She didn't want him to see her cry. She was so proud. "I've been foolish," she said at last. "I ask your forgiveness. Try to be happy." He stood there, frozen. He didn't understand her sudden gentleness. She looked at him one last time. "Yes, I love you," she said, "but it's not important now. You didn't understand me before. That's my fault. But you were kind. And I love you. Try to be happy, and go." He didn't want to leave her. But she had made it easier. He looked at her once more, then picked up his glass dome, and gently, quietly, he walked away. Chapter 10. The first planet the little prince visited was very small. On it there lived only one person, a king. He was sitting on a grand throne, wearing purple and ermine, looking very proud and serious. "Ah! A subject," the king cried, as soon as he saw the little prince. The little prince asked, "What do you mean by subject? You've never seen me before." "All men are my subjects," the king answered, very sure of himself. The king was happy to see someone. He had ruled for many years, but had no one to rule over. He finally had a real subject. That made him feel important. The little prince sat down. But he was a bit confused. The planet was so small, there was nothing on it except the king and his throne. He looked around and asked, "Can I sit down, Your Majesty?" "I order you to sit," the king said. He believed his authority must be respected. He thought of himself as a great ruler, and gave orders all the time, even if they were obvious. The little prince yawned. He had been traveling a lot and was tired. "It is against the rules to yawn in the presence of a king," the king said. "I'm sorry. I can't help it. I've been on a long journey," said the little prince. Well then, the king said, I order you to yawn. In fact, I haven't seen a yawn in a long time. Yawn again. That is an order. The little prince didn't know what to do. I don't feel like yawning now, he said, embarrassed. Then, said the king, I order you to yawn sometimes and to not yawn sometimes. The little prince was confused. He wondered if grown-ups always gave such strange orders. But he was impressed that this king wanted to give only reasonable commands. The king said proudly, I have the right to command. But I only command things that make sense. The little prince asked, can I see the sunset? He remembered his own planet, where he could watch many sunsets just by moving his chair. The king said, if I ordered the sun to set now, and it didn't, that would make me look foolish. So I give only wise orders. When will the sun set? Asked the little prince. It will set, tonight, around 7:40. And you'll see that I can make it happen. The little prince wanted to leave. The planet was too small and too strange. Your Majesty, he said, I ask you to let me go. I don't want you to go, the king said. He was very proud to have a subject. But he also wanted to act like a wise king. If you absolutely must leave, he said, then I order you to leave at once. That way, you will think I have power. The little prince left. As he continued his journey, he thought, grown-ups are so strange. Chapter 11. The second planet was also very small. A single man lived there. When the little prince arrived, the man saw him and shouted with joy. Ah! A visitor. Come and admire me. Admire you? Asked the little prince. Yes, said the man. I am the most beautiful, best dressed, richest, and most intelligent person on this planet. But you're the only person on this planet, said the little prince. Still, said the man, I want you to admire me. Clap your hands. The little prince didn't want to be rude, so he clapped. The man lifted his hat and bowed slightly. This is fun, the man said. Clap again. The little prince clapped again, and again the man bowed. After a few minutes, the little prince was bored. Do you really only care if people admire you? He asked. The man didn't answer. He only wanted compliments. He had no room in his mind for anything else. Do you truly believe I am the most wonderful man on this planet? The man asked. You're the only man on this planet, said the little prince, not unkindly. Admire me anyway, the man said. The little prince didn't understand grown-ups like this. He said to himself, grown-ups really are very strange, and he left. Chapter 12. The next planet the little prince visited was very small, like the others. A single man lived there, and he sat in front of several bottles, some empty, some full. The little prince looked at him curiously. This man didn't say hello, didn't look up, and didn't seem surprised to have a visitor. He just sat with his head down, staring at the bottles, holding a glass in one hand. His cheeks were red, and his eyes were tired. What are you doing? The little prince asked politely. I'm drinking, the man said without looking up. The little prince was puzzled. The man didn't look happy at all. In fact, he looked very sad. Why are you drinking? He asked. To forget, the man answered quietly. To forget what? Asked the little prince, beginning to feel worried about him. To forget that I am ashamed, the man said, lowering his head even more. The little prince didn't understand. He took a step closer. Ashamed of what? He asked. The man sighed and answered, ashamed of drinking. The little prince didn't know what to say. He stood still and watched the man for a moment. He wanted to help, but there was nothing he could do. The circle made no sense. The man drank to forget his shame, but his shame came from drinking. And so he drank more, and became more ashamed, and drank again. It was the saddest thing the little prince had seen so far on his journey. He looked at the man one more time, then quietly left. As he flew away, he thought to himself, grown-ups are very, very strange. Chapter 13. The fourth planet the little prince visited was much larger than the last. On it lived a businessman, a man so busy that he didn't even raise his head when the little prince arrived. Good morning, said the little prince. Your cigarette has gone out. The man muttered without looking up, 3 and 2 make 5. 5 and 7 make 12. 12 and 3 make 15. Hello. 15 and 7 make 22. 22 and 6 make 28. I don't have time to light it again. I am a serious man. I am busy with important things. The little prince waited politely, but he was confused. He had never seen someone so serious, and so rude. "What are you counting?" he asked at last. "Stars," said the businessman. "Stars?" "Yes. Those little golden things in the sky. I think about them at night. They belong to me." "And what do you do with them?" the little prince asked. "I own them," said the man. "I count them, and then I write the numbers in a book. Then I lock the book in a drawer." "That's all?" asked the little prince. "That's enough," the man said proudly. "Owning stars is a serious business." The little prince wasn't impressed. "I've seen a flower," he said, "that I water every day. I've seen a volcano I clean every week. Even when it doesn't erupt, I take care of it. That's called taking care of something. But you don't do anything with the stars. You just count them." "I am a serious person," the businessman said. "I have proof that I own the stars, I wrote it down. And now they belong to me." The little prince didn't think that made sense. "If I own a scarf, I can wear it. If I own a flower, I can care for it and help it grow. But you don't really do anything for the stars. You only say you own them. That doesn't mean much." The businessman didn't listen. He was already counting again. 501,622,731, he said. "That's how many I own." "What do you do with that number?" the little prince asked. "Nothing," the man replied. "It shows how rich I am. And I can use it to buy more stars, if anyone finds some." The little prince shook his head. This was even more puzzling than the man who drank to forget. He looked at the businessman carefully. "You don't look very happy," he said. "I am busy," the man replied. "I don't have time to think about happiness. I only have time to count." The little prince stood quietly for a moment. He thought about his rose, about her soft petals and the way she sometimes got confused or proud, but also how she needed him. And how he had left her behind, unprotected, with just a glass dome and a hope that the sheep wouldn't eat her. And here was this grown-up, trying to feel important just by owning numbers, instead of caring for something real. "I think you're confusing things," the little prince said gently. "Owning something means you care for it. You help it grow. You protect it. You love it. That's what makes it yours." But the businessman said nothing. He didn't even look up. The little prince sighed. He felt a little sad and very tired. Grown-ups, he thought to himself as he left that planet behind, are really very strange. Chapter 14. The fifth planet the little prince visited was very curious. It was smaller than the others, but not empty. A single street lamp stood in the middle, and next to it stood a man, the lamplighter. When the little prince arrived, the lamplighter lit the lamp with care and then immediately blew it out. "Good morning," the little prince said politely. "Why did you just light the lamp and then put it out again?" "Because that's the rule," the lamplighter replied. "Good morning." "What rule?" asked the little prince. "The rule says, I must light the lamp at night and put it out in the morning. So I light it and put it out." "But it's still morning here," the little prince said. "Yes," the man said with a sigh. "The problem is, the planet turns faster and faster. The day now lasts only 1 minute. So I have no rest. Every minute, the sun rises and sets. So I light the lamp and put it out every 60 seconds. As he spoke, he lit the lamp again, then immediately turned it off. "That's terrible," said the little prince. "That must be very tiring." "It is," said the lamplighter. "But it's the rule. I must follow it." The little prince looked at the man with sympathy. He was different from the others. The king only wanted power. The vain man wanted applause. The drunk man wanted to forget. The businessman wanted to own stars. But this lamplighter thought about something besides himself. He had a job, and he took it seriously. Even if the job made no sense anymore, he still did it, minute after minute, without complaining too much. The little prince sat down and watched the man work. "Why don't you take a break?" he asked. "Because I would be breaking the rule," said the lamplighter. The little prince thought quietly for a while. Then he had an idea. "Your planet is so small," he said, "you could walk slowly all the way around it. And if you walk fast enough in the direction of the sun, you could always stay in the shade. You could rest as much as you like." "That's an interesting idea," said the lamplighter. "But I'm too tired to try it." The little prince felt sorry for him. Of all the grown-ups he had met so far, he liked this one the most. At least the lamplighter cared about something. At least he thought of others, even if those others were invisible people who might walk by and need the lamp. He looked once more at the tiny planet with the one lamp and the tired lamplighter. And then, sadly, he moved on. This man, the little prince thought as he left, is someone I could be friends with. But his planet is too small. There's no room for both of us. Still, he carried the image of the lamplighter with him as he flew toward the next world. Chapter 15. The sixth planet was 10 times larger than the last. On it lived an old man with a huge book. When the little prince arrived, the man looked up. "Ah! A traveler," said the geographer. "What's a geographer?" the little prince asked. A geographer is a scientist who knows where the seas, rivers, mountains, towns, and deserts are, the man said proudly. "That sounds interesting," said the little prince. He looked around. The planet was full of books, maps, and papers, but not a single mountain, river, or town. "Do you go outside and look at them yourself?" asked the little prince. "Oh no," the geographer said. "That is the job of explorers. They go and see, then they come back and tell me. I write it all down in my book." "But you don't check it?" the little prince asked, surprised. "No, that's not my job," the geographer said. "I stay here. I wait for explorers." The little prince didn't know what to think. He had imagined that a geographer would be someone who loved seeing the world. But this man never even left his desk. "Tell me about your planet," the geographer said, opening his big book. The little prince sat quietly for a moment. "It's very small," he said. "I have 3 volcanoes. 2 are active. 1 is probably extinct. But I clean them all." "Volcanoes are interesting," said the geographer. "I'll write that down. And what else?" "I have a flower," said the little prince. "We don't record flowers," the geographer said. "Why not?" the little prince asked. "Because flowers are ephemeral." "What does ephemeral mean?" "It means something that doesn't last," said the geographer. "Something that may disappear soon." The little prince was shocked. He had never thought of his flower that way. She was real, and alive, and important. But now he saw her as fragile, breakable, something that could vanish while he was gone. "My flower is ephemeral," he said to himself, and his heart suddenly felt heavy. "Where do you think I should go next?" he asked the geographer after a while. "Go to Earth," the man said. "It has a good reputation." And so, with a quiet goodbye, the little prince continued his journey, carrying thoughts of his rose, her soft petals, and how little he had understood her before. Chapter 16. The Earth is a very big planet. Much bigger than all the little planets the little prince had visited before. It is so large that it would take hundreds of lamplighters to cover it, even thousands. In fact, on Earth there are more than 100 kings, not even counting the African ones. There are around 7,000 geographers, over 900,000 businessmen, more than 7 million drunkards, and about 300 million vain men. Altogether, that makes about 2 billion grown-ups. When the little prince arrived on Earth, he was amazed by how many people lived there. It was nothing like his own little planet, where he was completely alone with his flower and volcanoes. Here, life was spread out in every direction, mountains, oceans, deserts, forests, cities. And yet, despite the size of the Earth, there was something strange, it could feel very empty. The little prince would discover this later, when he wandered for a long time and saw almost no one. Long ago, Earth had many lamplighters. They had an important job. Every evening, in every city, town, and village, they would light the street lamps. In the morning, they would come back and put them out. It was quiet work, but very important, because people needed light in the night. From far away in space, you could look down at Earth and see something beautiful. The lights would turn on one by one, like stars blinking across the globe. First in Europe, then in Africa, then in Asia, then in America. It looked like the planet was breathing. When one lamplighter finished, another began. Each had his own place, his own time. The rhythm was like a dance, a soft, patient dance made of little flames and dark streets. The little prince loved this idea. "It's like music," he might have said. "The planet spins, and the lamplighters follow." But now, things had changed. Electric lamps had replaced people. The lamplighters were gone. Machines did their work silently, without footsteps or warmth. The poetry of the old dance was lost. Still, the little prince, even without seeing them, could imagine it, thousands of tiny lights coming alive across the land, one after the other, shining gently in the dark. Somewhere in the heart of the planet, he believed, that soft dance still continued, even if only in memory. Chapter 17. When the little prince arrived on Earth, he didn't see any people right away. He landed in the middle of a desert, and deserts are often silent. He was surprised. This planet is huge, he said to himself. But there's no one here. He had no idea how many people actually lived on Earth. He didn't know about cities and buildings and streets filled with noise. He had landed far from all that, in the quiet. Then, suddenly, something moved near his foot. "Good evening," said a voice. "Good evening," the little prince answered politely. He looked around. At first, he saw nothing. Then, at last, he saw a small creature curled in the sand. It was a snake. "What planet am I on?" the little prince asked. "You're on Earth," said the snake, "in Africa." "Ah," said the little prince. He sat down on a rock and looked up at the stars. He missed his home. It felt far away now, like a dream. "You're a strange little thing," said the snake at last. "So delicate. So soft. You came from the sky?" "Yes," said the little prince, "from far above." "You're lonely here," the snake said. "Even among people, you will feel alone." The little prince looked at the snake carefully. It was thin, golden, and moved like a ribbon. Its eyes shone in the dark. "You're very small too," the little prince said. "But I am powerful," the snake replied quietly. The little prince was not afraid. "You don't seem very powerful," he said. The snake smiled in his silent way. "I can send you back to where you came from," it said. "Back to the stars. I touch people, and they return to the earth from which they came. I am more powerful than a king." The little prince understood what the snake meant. But he didn't feel fear, only curiosity. "You speak in riddles," the little prince said. "Yes," said the snake, "but I solved them too." They were quiet together in the desert. The wind moved softly through the sand, and the stars above were cold and distant. The little prince missed his flower. He wondered if she was okay. If the sheep had eaten her. If she had survived the wind. She was so proud and yet so fragile. "I'm glad I met you," he said to the snake. "I'm always near," the snake replied. "If one day you miss your planet too much, I can help you go back." "I see," said the little prince. "Thank you." And then he stood up and continued walking into the desert. Chapter 18. The little prince walked across the desert. It was wide, dry, and very quiet. The sky was big and empty, and the sun was high above him, burning down. There was no sound except the soft crunch of sand under his feet. He had never seen a desert before. On his own planet, there were no deserts, only his volcanoes, his flower, and the small sprouts he pulled up each morning. Everything there was close. Everything felt like it belonged to him. But here, the land stretched forever. He felt small and alone. As he walked, he thought of his rose. He remembered her soft petals, the way she sometimes sighed when she spoke, and how she always acted proud even when she was unsure. She had said, "I don't need protection," and then asked him to place the glass dome over her. She had been difficult sometimes, but she had never left her place. She had roots. That meant something. Then, in the middle of the desert, he saw a flower. It stood alone in the sand. It wasn't like his rose. This one had only 3 petals and looked a little tired, as if the wind had pushed it around too much. The little prince bent down and greeted it. "Good morning," he said gently. "Good morning," the flower replied, lifting its face slightly toward the sun. The little prince studied it for a moment. "Where are all the people?" he asked. The flower swayed in the breeze. "People," it said. "I saw some pass by many years ago. I think there are only 6 or 7 of them. I never know where they are. The wind carries them. They have no roots, and that makes life hard." The little prince listened. The wind blew around them softly. He thought again of his rose. She did have roots. She stayed in one place. She had waited for him to return. Even though she never said it clearly, he believed now that she had loved him. The flower didn't say more. It had seen little of the world and didn't seem to care much about anything. "Goodbye," said the little prince. "Goodbye," said the flower. And the little prince walked on. The desert felt even wider now. But something inside him was changing. Chapter 19. After walking a long time, the little prince came to a mountain, a real mountain, much taller than anything he had seen before. On his planet, there were 2 volcanoes, and one of them didn't even work anymore. He could stand on top of them easily. But this was different. This mountain reached into the sky. He climbed slowly, using his hands and feet to move over the sharp rocks. The wind was strong, and the air was thin. But he wanted to reach the top. He thought, from up high, I will see the whole planet. Maybe I will find people. Maybe I will not feel so alone. At last, he reached the top. He looked all around. There were more mountains in the distance. Peaks and cliffs stretched as far as he could see. There were no towns. No roads. No people. Only rock and sky. He felt a bit disappointed. He cupped his hands around his mouth and called out, "Hello." His voice echoed off the stone walls, "Hello, hello, hello." He waited. "Who are you?" he called. The mountain answered, "Who are you, who are you, who are you? Be my friend." "I'm all alone," he said. "All alone, all alone, all alone," the voice replied. The little prince sat down on a rock. The echo had answered, but not truly. It only repeated what he said. That wasn't real conversation. That wasn't a real friend. He looked at the rocks around him and whispered, "This is a strange planet. It's sharp and hard and full of echoes. People here don't really talk, they just repeat." He sat still for a while, letting the wind blow through his hair. He looked up at the sky. The stars were still faint in the bright daylight, but he knew they were there. His flower was under those same stars, somewhere, far away. She would never echo me, he thought. She spoke first. She asked questions. She complained, she laughed, she teased. She was real. He had left her behind because he had not understood her. He had taken her words too seriously, and not seriously enough. But now that he was far away, walking through endless deserts and climbing silent mountains, he started to hear her differently. Not in echoes, but in memory, real, living memory. The little prince stood up again. The silence of the desert was too heavy. The echo only made it heavier. He wanted something real. So he climbed down the mountain slowly, step by step, the same way he had come up. He didn't rush. He was thinking too much. The earth was vast and beautiful, but also very quiet, and very empty in some places. It made him miss what he had left behind. Chapter 20. After many days of walking through the desert, the little prince came to a road. It led to a garden, and in that garden were flowers. Lots of them. Roses. Thousands and thousands of roses. The little prince stood still. He stared at them in shock. All the flowers looked just like his rose, the same color, the same shape, the same softness. He had always believed that his flower was the only one of her kind in the universe. She had told him so herself, "I am unique." And he had believed her. But now, in this one garden, were hundreds of flowers just like her. He walked slowly along the rows of roses. His heart felt heavy. "Who are you?" he asked them. "We are roses," they said. "Oh," said the little prince. And he sat down on the grass and cried. His flower had told him she was special. And he had loved her, protected her, cared for her, listened to her, even when she was proud or difficult. He had thought there was no one else like her in all the stars. But here, in front of him, were many flowers that looked exactly the same. He began to feel small and foolish. His rose had been proud, yes. She had told lies sometimes. He had left her because he didn't understand her. And now he wondered, was she even special at all? She had told him she was the only one, and it wasn't true. "I thought I was rich because I had one flower," he said to himself. "But all I had was a common rose. Just like these." He lay down in the grass and let the sadness pass through him. "I am just like these flowers," he thought. "And my planet is small. I have no power, no importance." And for the first time in his journey, the little prince felt truly lost. Chapter 21. That's when the fox appeared. He was a small, golden fox. His fur was soft, and his eyes were gentle. He looked at the little prince for a long moment without saying anything. "Good morning," said the little prince. "Good morning," said the fox. "Who are you?" asked the little prince. "You're very beautiful." "I am a fox," said the fox. "Come and play with me," said the little prince. "I'm so sad. I cannot play with you," the fox replied. "I'm not tamed." "Oh. I'm sorry," said the little prince. Then he paused. "What does tamed mean?" The fox sat down and looked at him kindly. "It means, to create ties," he said. "To make a connection." "To make a connection?" "Yes," said the fox. "To me, you are just a little boy, like 100,000 other little boys. And I don't need you. And you don't need me. I'm just a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, then we will need each other. You will be unique to me in all the world, and I will be unique to you." The little prince thought about that. "I think I understand," he said. "There's a flower. I think she tamed me." "That's possible," said the fox. "On Earth, you can see all kinds of things." The fox looked into the distance. "But it doesn't happen very often. People don't have time to make real connections. They buy things ready-made in stores. But friendship isn't ready-made. If you want a friend, you have to tame them." "How do I do that?" asked the little prince. "You must be very patient," said the fox. "You must come sit near me, like this, in the grass. At first, say nothing. I will watch you from the corner of my eye, and you must not speak. Words can get in the way. Every day, you can sit a little closer." The little prince sat in the grass. The wind moved through the wheat. The sun was warm. The fox said, "My life is very boring. I hunt chickens, and men hunt me. All the chickens are the same, and all the men are the same. So I'm lonely. But if you tame me, my life will be filled with light. I will hear your footsteps, and they will be like music to me. I will know when you're coming, and I will be happy." The little prince looked at him. "This sounds beautiful. I want to tame you. But you must understand," said the fox, "once you tame me, you are responsible for me. Forever." The little prince nodded. "I understand." So the little prince tamed the fox. Every day he sat a little closer. They spoke in soft voices. They looked at the sun and the sky. The fox told stories. The little prince listened. And then the time came when the little prince had to continue his journey. "I must go," he said sadly. "I must return to my flower." The fox looked at him for a long time. "I'm going to cry," the fox said. "It's your fault," said the little prince. "You wanted to be tamed." "Yes," said the fox, "and I do not regret it." "Then it did you no harm?" "No," said the fox. "It gave me something precious." Then the fox said something important. "Here is my secret. It's very simple, one sees clearly only with the heart. What is essential is invisible to the eye." The little prince repeated the words, softly. He would remember them. "It is the time you spent with your rose that makes her so important," said the fox. "The time I spent with my rose," repeated the little prince. "You become responsible, forever, for what you have tamed," said the fox. "I am responsible for my rose," the little prince whispered. The fox said nothing more. And the little prince went on his way, carrying those words deep inside him. Chapter 22. After saying goodbye to the fox, the little prince continued his journey. He walked for a long time under the sun, across dry land. The wind moved the sand, the sky stretched endlessly above him. He felt both full, because of what the fox had taught him, and empty, because the world still seemed so wide and lonely. Then he met a man beside the railway tracks. He was a railway switchman, whose job was to guide trains, sending them left or right, depending on where they were going. "Good morning," said the little prince. "Good morning," said the switchman. "What are you doing here?" asked the little prince. "I sort the trains," the man replied. "I send them in different directions, some to the left, some to the right." As they spoke, a fast train roared past, making the ground shake. "They're in a big hurry," said the little prince. "Where are they going?" "No one knows," said the switchman. "Not even the passengers. They're always in a rush." Another train passed in the opposite direction, just as fast. "Are they coming back already?" asked the little prince. "No," said the man. "That's a different train." "Don't they know what they're looking for?" asked the little prince. The man shook his head. "No. The grown-ups never know what they're looking for." The little prince thought quietly. "They rush around in circles," he said at last. "They don't enjoy the journey. They don't even know where they're going. That's very strange." Then came a third train, rumbling past, with children looking out of the windows. Their faces were pressed against the glass, full of light. "Only the children are looking," said the little prince. "They know what they're looking for." The switchman smiled. "Yes. They look out the window. They watch the trees, the clouds, the birds. They notice the world." The little prince watched the train disappear. "Grown-ups forget how to look," he said. And he kept walking. Chapter 23. After some time, the little prince met another man. This man stood behind a small wooden counter, surrounded by boxes and bottles. He was a merchant, and he sold special pills. "These pills save time," the man explained. "If you take one, you don't need to drink water for a whole week." The little prince blinked. "Why don't people want to drink water?" he asked. The merchant was proud of his invention. "It saves time," he said. "People are busy. They don't want to waste time drinking. So if you take one pill a week, you save 53 minutes. "And what do they do with the time they save?" asked the little prince. "Whatever they want," the man replied. The little prince thought for a moment. "If I had 53 minutes to spare," he said softly, "I would walk very slowly toward a spring of fresh water." The merchant had nothing to say. The little prince thanked him politely and left. He didn't understand this idea of saving time. The fox had told him that important things take time. You can't love someone in a minute. You can't tame a friend by rushing. And now this man was trying to sell pills to save the few precious minutes people had, and they didn't even know what to do with them. He remembered the trains, the passengers rushing without knowing where they were going. And he thought again about the rose. He had spent so many quiet minutes with her, watering her, listening to her, protecting her from wind and sun. None of it had been fast. All of it had mattered. The little prince walked farther and farther, feeling the desert stretch around him like silence. But now the silence didn't scare him. It gave space for memory, for love, for thinking about what the fox had said. "One sees clearly only with the heart," he whispered again. "What is essential is invisible to the eye." Chapter 24. It was now the 8th day since the little prince had appeared in the desert, and I had been working on fixing my airplane every day. I had run out of water. My canteen was empty, and I knew I wouldn't last much longer. The heat was stronger than ever. My hands were dry and cracked. My lips were tight with thirst. And the little prince? He was sitting quietly beside me, watching the sunset in his mind. "I'm thirsty," I said. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Let's go look for a well." I looked around at the sand, the endless emptiness. "It's not that simple," I said. "We're in the middle of the desert. You don't just find a well." But he started walking, and I followed him. We walked silently, side by side, hour after hour, as the sun began to fall. The desert changed color. The sky turned rose gold, and the sand glowed. There were no words between us, only footsteps, shadows, and the sound of the wind. After a while, night came. The stars appeared slowly, one by one. It was the kind of silence that makes you listen. Not to sounds, but to yourself. To your heart. The little prince stopped walking and sat down. I sat next to him. We were both exhausted. "The stars are beautiful," he said softly, "because of the flower you can't see." I looked at him. "Yes," I said. "The desert is beautiful too." He turned toward me. "That's true," he whispered. "What makes the desert beautiful is that somewhere, it hides a well." I looked out across the sand. It all looked the same, dry, golden, endless. But I understood what he meant. There was a secret in the desert, something silent and invisible that made it feel full of meaning. Just like the stars. I held the little prince in my arms. He had fallen asleep. I was carrying him now. He was so light, like a sleeping bird, like a shell with something glowing inside. I walked on, step after step, under the stars, holding the boy who had changed the way I saw everything. Chapter 25. At sunrise, I saw something ahead. It was round, low, made of stone. A well. Yes, a well in the middle of nowhere. Not a dry hole in the sand, but a real well, with a stone wall, a pulley, a rope, and a wooden bucket. It looked like a dream. The little prince woke up in my arms. His eyes were bright again. He smiled. "You found it," he said. We went to the well together. I turned the handle slowly. The pulley creaked and groaned, it hadn't been used in years. The rope moaned softly as it moved, and then the bucket came up, full of water. I lifted it carefully. The water shimmered in the light. It was cool and clear. "I'm thirsty for this water," said the little prince. "Give me a drink." I handed him the bucket. He drank slowly, eyes closed, smiling. It was the sweetest water I had ever tasted. That water was different because we had walked to find it. Because we had shared silence, heat, fear, and hope. It wasn't just water. It was a gift. "The stars are beautiful," he said again, "because of one flower you cannot see." I nodded. I didn't ask more. I understood. Then he said something else, very quietly. "Tomorrow is the anniversary, the day I fell to earth." I looked at him. He was watching the sun. "I came down near this place," he said. "Just over there." And then, gently, he added, "It's been a year." I felt a strange feeling in my chest. "You should go back to your plane," he said. "It's all fixed now, isn't it?" I didn't answer. "You must go back. I'll wait here. Come back tomorrow evening. Just be here." There was something serious in his voice. I didn't ask questions. I was afraid of what he might say. Instead, I looked out across the desert. Somewhere beneath the sand was the well. Above us were the stars. And between them, us. A boy and a man, sitting together in silence, near the end of something invisible. Chapter 26. The next evening, I came back, just as the little prince had asked me. I saw him from far away. He was sitting on a rock, legs hanging down, watching the sky. I walked slowly toward him. He said nothing at first. "You're here," he said finally. His voice was quiet. Then he stood up. "You did a good job. You fixed your plane. You can go home." I didn't answer. I looked at him carefully. Something was different. He was very still. His hands were in his pockets. And he was watching the horizon, not looking at me. "I'm glad you found the water," he said. "It will help you." He was silent again. Then he added, "Tonight, it's exactly 1 year. My star will be right above the spot where I fell." I understood now. He had come back here on purpose. He had planned this. The fox had taught him what it meant to be responsible. He had something to return to. "You're afraid," I said. He nodded, just a little. "I'll look like I'm dying," he said. "But it won't be true." I couldn't say anything. "You know," he said gently, "it's too far. I can't take this body with me. It's too heavy." He looked down at his feet. "It's like an old shell. You don't need it anymore." I sat down. I felt cold, even though the air was warm. He stood close to me. "It will be sad," he said. "You'll think I'm gone. But I won't really be gone." His voice was kind. "You'll look at the stars, and I'll be there. I'll be laughing on one of them. So whenever you see the stars, you'll hear me laughing." He laughed softly. "And when you hear my laughter, you'll remember me. And it will make you laugh too." That made me smile through the sadness. "It's like a gift," he said. "A little prince laughing on a star." Then he became serious again. "Promise me," he said, "you won't stay too sad." I nodded, though my throat was tight. He looked once more at the horizon. "It's time," he whispered. He took a few steps away. Then he stopped. There was something yellow at his feet. I knew what it was. He didn't cry out. He didn't fall slowly. He just fell, softly, like a tree that has no sound when it drops in the sand. Chapter 27. That was 6 years ago. I've never told this story before. Until now. My plane was fixed the next morning. I flew away. I went back to people, to work, to airports and clocks and cities. But something stayed behind in the desert. And now, when I look at the stars, I smile. I know he's there. Somewhere. On one of them. Laughing. I didn't find his body. It wasn't there. It was too far away, as he said. Too light to stay on Earth. And I know what he told me was true. He is back on his little planet. He is watching his volcanoes. He is caring for his rose. He is smiling. And I remember. I still think about him every night. I still hear his laugh in the stars. And sometimes, when I look up, the sky is full of bells. It is full of music. Because of him. But there's one thing I want to ask you. One thing. If you ever travel to the desert, the Sahara, and if by some chance you see a little boy standing there, golden-haired, and if he doesn't answer when you speak, you'll know who he is. Don't leave him alone. Write to me. Tell me he has come back. Because I'll always be listening. The end.